Project Sapient is a podcast meant to engage our brothers and sisters in the law enforcement and military communities in conversations that we all know we need to have. All opinions you hear are our own, and they are protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. They are in no way reflect or are meant to reflect the opinion of any specific agency, officer, or service member. Some opinions may be controversial. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome back to another great episode of Project Sapient. It's been awesome. Jake's not around today. He's moving his entire gym to another location, so he's basically working out all day today. I'll call it. So he's got his work cut out for him. But it's one of these episodes that I would say, we wouldn't be able to do these types of episodes if it wasn't for our sponsors, supporters, like AAA Police Supply. Head over there for all your police needs, whether it's plainclothes, uniform, whatever you want, they have over there. And make sure you head to AAA.police.com and type in Hybrid 10 to get 10% off your entire purchase order. And, Havoc Journal, obviously I'm a writer for Havoc Journal, and the type of news and the articles that are featured there are really, they're great, they're awesome. Not just because I'm a writer there, but it's because, I was drawn to Havoc Journal early on in the early stages when it started, and it talks really down to earth, from veterans to first responders and anybody else that has, great articulation in talking about whatever they want to talk about, whether it's issues or props or anything like that. And then obviously Second Mission Foundation, who has helped this podcast really take off, as well as publishing my book, The Resolute Path, through the Second Mission Foundation. And they're all about helping veterans find their second mission, especially after service. So without further ado, if you guys remember a couple episodes back, we had Matt Williams on. Incredible episode about him, life after service. And he referred to he referred us to another veteran who also found life after service, found her second mission, her second purpose, so to speak. And in Matt's in Matt's style, he just you meet Alicia, meet Ayman, meet Alicia, and here you go. I'm like, oh, all right, cool, we're doing this, I guess. So without further ado, Alicia, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. And, so give you guys, our listeners, quick background on Elisha Perkins. So Alicia was actually a police officer back, even actually we'll say 2006, 2005, 2006 time frame, St. Pete Police Department. She was there for 3 years, and then was unfortunately laid off during the 2008 economic collapse, which we know a lot of police departments were laying off, a lot of police officers as a result. So after 3 years at St. Pete Police Department, once she got laid off, she decided to join the U.S. Army. And, her story just serving in the U.S. Army, I mean, she was deployed to Afghanistan, and her vehicle exploded in an IED blast, killing everyone else in the vehicle and shattering her pelvis, femurs, knees, and one tibia. And so today, despite currently undergoing chemotherapy for cancer, she donates her time training service dogs for other veterans with PTSD at the nonprofit she founded. And this nonprofit's called Pop Smoke K9s for veterans. You can totally tell this is a veteran organization, especially when you hear Pop Smoke. You're like, oh yeah, that's definitely a veteran organization. So it's really, again, it's one of those things where, you like, we've all had friends and fellow veterans who, unfortunately died with IED blasts and stuff like that. I was unfortunately at one of them during my deployment. Sergeant Allers, he got killed during an IED blast, and we were the backup unit. When we heard the scream on the SARS, that's obviously something you never forget. and we raced down to go rescue them. And man, talk about and you never forget the chaos, and the sounds and everything. And with Alicia being on here, it's always an honor to see a veteran who came back from that kind of full force, and to tell her story, and the story how she basically persevered through a lot of stuff. And as Matt described you, you're basically like RoboCop. I think he described you as. But Alicia, so yeah, I want to kind of. I mean, there's so many questions and so many points to discuss. And I mean, why don't we go back to when you first started your career essentially in public service, we'll call it. Starting with St. Pete PD, and was that something you've always wanted to do, to become a police officer and to serve and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know it was until I got into it, and like the love of it, it just fit for me. Like it just seemed like home. All the other careers and stuff that I tried since college and stuff just didn't speak to me. I guess you could say it just seemed natural for me just to go right into that environment. And
Yeah,
yeah, I love being a cop. It was a
yeah,
it was a hard pill to swallow to leave it, so I had to look for something else very similar, kind of career, and so that's what got me into the military at that point. But yeah, I love being a cop. I'd do it today if I wasn't half metal. So
yeah. It's always interesting for me to hear from people that unfortunately were cut short on the job, whether it's through injury or being laid off because of economy and whatever else. And you always find that they're always yearning for that brotherhood, sisterhood, that sort of camaraderie
yep,
that is found within that profession. And yeah, obviously the military is like the next best thing for that sort of feeling, is that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself.
yep.
So when did you officially join and go to basic?
Eight.
Oh wait, okay, all right. So so basically right after you got laid off, you
Yes.
went
Yeah,
ahead
I
and
made a decision.
okay.
I'm not a person that sits around very easily. Like I
I think
get
that's called
bored.
ADD.
I went in as a 25 uniform, and I did that for a little over a year, and then I did the green the gold because I went in with the bachelor's degree, so I was able to do the
Oh,
green the
okay,
gold
gotcha.
about a year after. But I wanted to earn my time a little bit and do the enlisted thing for a while. That way, you get a lot more respect doing that than just coming in as an officer and pissing a lot of people off. So I wanted to be able to do it and make sure I knew everything that I was going to be doing and that kind of stuff. And so I went that route. And then after that, I got to I ranked high enough in the green, the gold, so I could still stay in my MOS. So I was able to still continue doing the Commo 25 uniform route.
Okay.
So that went really good, and that got me stationed out in good old Kansas.
Don't tell me the dreaded is that Fort Polk?
No, that's Fort Riley. Fort
Fort
Polk is
Riley, Fort
Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay, all right, oh, same difference, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. They're both like places you should just keep flying over. Don't
Yeah,
stop.
yeah. How long were you stationed in good old Riley?
Yeah, I was there until my very end. So I got out. So I was there for, I guess, 3 years. 3 years at the end, 3 or 4 years at the end. There,
Okay.
I
And
say.
when did you go to Afghanistan?
I went to Afghanistan 3 different times actually in my time
Oh,
period.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So my third time was the IED was
Okay.
there, and then after the IED, they medically retired me out at that point.
So when did you? So I take it after the IED, you went to Germany, and from Germany, did you end up at Walter Reed at all, or is that pretty much kind of the
Nope.
trajectory you went?
Yeah, I was out in Germany for almost 8 months before they sent me back. And
Okay.
then they sent me back to Riley, and I finished having the rest of my surgeries there. I never went
Gotcha.
to Walter Reed.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I mean, I know, again, there's something so minor compared to yours, but during, one of our ops, I ended up tearing my MCL, and, obviously had knee pain, and they wanted me, oh yeah, we could send you to Germany. And at the time, I still had like 3 more months left of my deployment. I'm like, fuck that, I'm not going any because you're like, I'm with my guys.
Yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
not gonna just go, just like that. But I'm sure with yours, obviously severe injuries, severely wounded. Um, were you still in contact with anyone in your obviously with the unit?
It was a few months after actually found before I found out that I lost everybody in the truck.
Oh
They didn't tell
Jesus!
me that right away. Yeah, and I
Wow.
couldn't get back to the truck. Actually, it shot me through the turret, so I was about 500 feet from my truck. That's actually what saved my life was being, ejected through the turret. But I had no idea that nobody else made it until a couple months into where they got me to where I was really stable enough. Um,
Yeah.
I think I'd had at that point 3 of the surgeries, and each one of my surgeries was ended up being like one was like 12 hours long, and there was another one that was like 9 hours long, just trying to seal the pelvis area back together and make it all work the right way. So
Yeah.
once they kind of got that figured out that I was actually going to survive this thing, that's when they decided to lay the bad news on me at that point. Um,
Mm.
but I was in Germany for another. Um, so I had 7 of my surgeries in Germany
Yeah.
before they sent me back to be able
Wow.
to get the rest of it. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had
How many
13 so far.
surgeries have you? Yeah. How many surgeries did you have to go through?
13.
13. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
So and you had eight of them in Germany, and then the rest back home.
yeah, 7 in Germany and the rest of them back at home. When I was in Kansas, they gave me like 5 more, and then when I got out, I had 2 more after that. Just about, I think, two
Okay.
more, 1 more, 2 more.
Is that when they medically retired you, like during that whole process?
Yeah, as soon as I got
Yeah.
back to Kansas, they were already starting it.
Yeah.
It's almost like they were just waiting for me to get there. They were like, "Here's your paperwork."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a cold way to do it, but I don't know how else they would do it,
Yeah, no, I
especially
get it.
after all, yeah, the trauma and the all that is still fresh in your head.
Yeah,
Yet, they give you the paperwork like, all right, well, see you.
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure if it felt that way. I
yeah.
mean, now in terms of your support that you had while you were going through, was it all VA involved or was it Army? How did that dynamic work?
Yeah, so after the military, right into the VA to start scheduling the other surgeries and that kind of thing. The VA actually did do all of my surgeries and I just kept pushing for it
Right.
because I wasn't going to. First they would tell me I'm going to be in a wheelchair the rest of my life. Just wasn't. That's not something I wanted. I was in my 30s. Late. It's not what I wanted for myself. I went to the mall one time in a wheelchair, and I had somebody come up to me and said, why are you in that? You don't need to be in that. I'm
Wow.
like, but yeah. And I was like, well, I know I don't want this to be the rest of my life because I can't stand it when people come up to me. I'm not very good with people, let's say. So I definitely didn't really want that for the rest of my
Yeah.
life. I was like, I'm just going to keep pushing one surgery after another till I can get it to where I can do this thing.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I just need a little bit of hope. Just keep pushing, pushing, and pushing. And 13 come around, and I finally got to the point it was the 13th one was my knee replacement to connect
Okay.
the metal tibia and everything together, and it just worked. And that was enough to get me to where I could use a cane. I used a walker for a long, long time until I could gain some strength back in my lower half. And then
Yep.
after that, I was able to do it without that.
Mm. So that's kind of the stories that we all love as veterans, who understand and get the drive, right, to get that that drive. To me it's really telling when someone tells you, oh, you're never going to walk again, and you're like, yeah, fuck you, watch me, and the some it's that it's I always get fascinated by it because we all have it where from the most minor of injuries that we all know fellow veterans that they're like, oh, fuck that, yeah, I could have a broken pinky yet I'm still gonna run through, do whatever, or yeah, get built like RoboCop and still be like, yeah, no, I'm gonna walk, and just watch
Yeah,
me. And that's the perseverance and the resilience that I love highlighting a lot and really showcase and to
yeah,
talk about because it's a different mindset, right? To have that. Yeah, and I'm
yeah.
sure in you were just like, yeah, fuck that. Yeah, I yeah, fuck you. I hate people, and I don't want anyone to look at me like that. When I'm in a wheelchair. Whatever that mindset is. Whatever that mindset is that drove you essentially to
Yeah.
be able to walk on your own. Is just a remarkable thing. And when did you? So once they hooked up your tibia to your knee and all that, when did you start learning how to walk again?
So after that surgery, once they really kicked that in, actually within 24 hours they had me in therapy,
Oh, okay.
extensive therapy. So I was, most after surgeries, it's usually like once a week. I actually had therapy 5 days a week, and I
Hmm.
was pushing myself. And they would hook me to a track in the ceiling, and that's how they would move me around the therapy. And that just having taken that little bit of weight off me actually helped me learn to figure things out again, like to get the legs moving. They would move my legs for me for a long time. It
Yeah.
was months of just barely taking an inch or a step. And, I took one step and it was like a miracle, and
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
a couple weeks later, I'd take a couple more on my own. It just took a long time to get the strength there. And,
Yeah.
it took years to have all these surgeries. So the strength was literally nothing, and,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
mean, how many
So it,
years
it
were the
probably
surgery like they lasted? Like how? So 2008. So how long would I mean? How many years did you go through surgeries before you actually were able to start learning how to walk again?
2000, say it was about almost 2015, and I was
Oh
walking
wow.
and learned how to
Okay,
walk.
so
Yeah.
you're talking close to a decade of not walking, and then
Hmm.
learning how to walk again. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was determined,
that's
though. I'm telling you, I was hard headed, stubborn. I was not going to give into it.
oh hell yeah. I
It's
mean
not,
that
it's,
that's yeah that's the thing. It's not that just looking on the outside and seeing, like hearing about your story and again some others, it's like that determination we all have, that or each individual has that literally pushes them no matter what. And I recall years ago when I first met my wife, one of the things she always described me as is just determined. Like I think it's more stubbornness than determination. Where I'm like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not giving up, whatever. And my wife, she calls it, again, determination. I'm like, it could be just more stubbornness more than anything else. But whatever you want to call it, though, that right there basically forced you, or you forced yourself not to accept that end result of never walking again, right? No matter how many, I mean, I'm sure in your head you went, no matter how many years it's going to take me, I'm going to be walking again.
yeah.
Was that something
Yeah.
kind of went through your mind?
That's all I thought about. I
Yeah.
worked. That's all I did. I didn't have a job. Like they retired me. So this was what I was doing. Right. This kind of blast, this IED took a lot from me.
Yeah.
And the one thing I wasn't going to let it take from me was my legs, the use of them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's again that determined. But so when you started walking, I mean, were you obviously it's probably not long distances, right? You were just doing one step at a time, get yourself set up
Yep.
and just reset. And even I'm sure I think you said at one point like just doing one step was that big deal for you. Like hell yeah, on my way.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is possible. Like there was a lot of times, a lot of surgeries that went by, and I'm like, this is not going to happen for me. I'm just going to have to accept where I'm at and just let that be that. And I probably did that for like a month or two after a surgery, and just like it didn't seem like I was ever going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The low points, you get there. The low, the depression it puts you in, and you get tired of fighting sometimes. And then I don't know, something comes around and you get your shit together, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, I just want to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Literally, that's all I wanted to do. And just dug a little deeper into my soul, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
push, the desire just not to accept what everybody was saying to me,
Yeah.
was really kept me going.
Yeah.
I did it for my family, but I did it for me because it's just not a life that I wanted for myself. I don't want to be in a wheelchair and have to depend on that before
Yeah.
it's my time to be in that.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
in my 30s. It's just not a life of somebody in their 30s for me. That's
Yeah.
my mentality of it. I was an athlete. I was a D1 athlete all my life. I rode motorcycles. I did all kinds of stuff. Jumped out of planes. I loved it all. And all those things I
Yeah.
couldn't do anymore.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to walk. Just
Yeah.
simply that. And I was going to figure that out. I didn't know if I was going to have to finally come to the point where I was going to be like, that's it. You can cut them off and just give me some legs because I'm going to walk one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was going to be my final thing. Like, if they couldn't do it after I don't know how many surgeries, then I was going to be like, okay, well, it's time.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to walk.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, your story kind of reminds me of that, kind of like in the movies where, the actor or actress are they're like, broken on the waist down, and then they wiggle their big toe all of a sudden, and they're like, fuck, fuck that, I was never gonna, I told you I was gonna walk again, type of thing. But it's real though. Those things are real. Like those things really happen. I mean, you're an example of it. There's some other phenomenal veterans out there that actually, I forget the name of the veteran, where he went back as a Green Beret, even with one leg,
Yep.
blown off. He's still doing his thing. There's even stories of police officers out there that had to lose a leg or something, and they're still out there doing the job because it's just that mentality that they have, that determination that they have, is that, again, like fuck that. I'm not going to let this define my life. I'm going to
Yep.
push on,
Yep.
and kind of now moving forward. And for you, like, to me, it's like you got all the decks are like stacked against you because all of a sudden now, cancer hit you,
Yeah.
and it's like,
First time it was breast cancer hit me. That was
okay,
the
first
first
time it
one.
was okay. And how long ago was that?
I think it's been almost 4 years now. I think
Okay.
3 years, 3 or 4 years. What year are we in?
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 years it's been
Yeah.
since that one came about. And that one was
Okay.
fairly, I hate to say easy compared to this one, but it was a lot easier. So, like, they found it. I had to do a couple rounds of chemo and some radiation, and then they removed it. And then I had to do
Okay.
a couple more rounds of radiation. And then I was considered cancer free, but you have to go that span of to 7 years in order for you to really be cancer free. And I didn't quite
Yeah.
make it, before this round of
Yeah.
getting colon cancer.
Okay. And that's what you're currently working on right now is
Yeah.
colon cancer. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just, again, like, you start walking and you're walking, and then,
Yep.
a couple years later you get breast cancer, and then
Yep.
you defeat that, we'll say. And now, I mean, when did you get diagnosed with colon cancer?
It's not even been it's been about a year now. It's about the same time that I had a divorce. So that's about that time. A lot of shit all at once. How much more shit
Yeah.
can I take? And
Oh God. Again, it's
yeah,
like just one thing after another with you. Yet, I mean, so you're currently battling colon cancer. I know Matt told me you were undergoing chemo, I think. Oh, no, you told me you were undergoing chemo this past week.
yeah,
So that's why we scheduled the podcast a couple days later for you to rest up. And to
yeah,
me, it still amazes me the stuff that you're doing, even undergoing the chemo, and even doing, what you do now, just like with the service dogs, the foundation you started.
yeah.
When did you start this foundation?
23 is when I got it
2023.
up and going. Yeah, so it's not been up
Okay.
and going that long. Yep.
Okay. So did you start around the
Yeah,
same time you got diagnosed with colon cancer, or was it before?
it was before that.
It was
It
before
was a
that.
little bit
Okay.
before that.
I know you told me the story of how and why you started the service animal, doing service dogs. So I'm going to have our listeners listen to the story of how you just kind of jumped right into it. Yeah, I'll ask. I mean, how and why did you start this service dog foundation?
So, it was a mental disaster. Throughout, since I got out of the military, when you get out, you're like in denial of a lot of things. Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
may have seen a lot, you've been through a lot, but you just want to get out and just live. And and enjoy some of the things, I guess, that you didn't do when you were in, kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
I was in denial of a lot of things. I got married and did that whole thing, and life was good. And then all of a sudden, the world got dark. The world started closing in, as I like to say it. Like
Yeah.
we moved over from the over to where I'm at now in Ormond Beach, St. Pete side, and bought a house. And I moved over by myself. My wife was still back in St. Pete, so I was like doing all the reno and stuff on the house. And uh, nosy neighbors started peeking in my fucking windows. These old people, I swear, they love to like.
Yeah, right.
They have no boundaries
No, they
sometimes.
don't.
Nope. So that's kind of like where it started. I'm like, oh, I didn't really like that. So like the cameras started going up, the locks on my gate started happening. I left the house less and less and less to really got to the point where I wasn't leaving my house at all. Got to a place where people were not good for me. Like I had zero trust in people. I think a lot of that happened from someone tried to kill me that didn't know me in
Okay. Yeah.
Afghanistan. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And
Yep.
my trust there was just gone. That just started coming in. The night terror started happening for me. The rage, the PTSD rage kind of comes from that, and huge amount of depression. I just never left the chair sometimes. Like I was dying inside, really, honestly. And
Yeah.
I didn't really know a way out of it at that
I
time.
think I think not too many veterans know. I remember again, you're a completely different type of situation, but I remember coming home and that you call it that PTSD rage. I mean, I
Yeah.
had it bad,
Yeah.
where I don't know if you were the same way, but I'm sure. But it's like you forgot what pissed you off so much, but
Yep.
you just go from zero to like a red,
Yeah.
like in a matter of
Mhm.
half a second, and then you just don't remember what pissed you off initially.
Yep.
After you're done. And I'll never forget. And this is when internet was still very, very slow. But I remember getting an email from one of our squad mates, and he's like, "Hey, are any of you angry?" And all of us, reply all like, "Fuck yeah, dude! Like, what the hell's going on with us?" Like, it's just something we weren't used to. It's part of it. I think is just the aggressiveness that the army taught us to be. Like, when we're out in combat,
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what, we're angry, where this fucking hornets that the minute you fuck with us, yeah, we're gonna be all over you in a heartbeat. And I think that transferred over to civilian life for us, not realizing that civilians don't really like that, and they don't
Yeah.
understand it. And I don't think too many people talk about that PTSD rage that you describe, which is a great description. I'm actually gonna steal that now. You should trademark that PTSD rage. But that PTSD rage is so real, because it just
Yes.
like, you know, uh, I mean, I could give examples. I mean, I remember when I first came home and I was driving, and it was like someone was behind me tailgating me, honking their horn. Like, I'm like, what the fuck is, like, what am I doing? I'm looking at my speedometer. I'm doing the speed limit. Like, I'm doing everything right. And out of nowhere, just this rage hit me, and I fucking slammed
Yeah.
on that brake. I opened my, like, I was completely not myself. To me, it was a
Yep.
threat. All right, that's a threat. Now I got to deal with it. So I
Yep.
could totally understand also with the whole nosy neighbors, because when I came home, yeah, you get the nosy neighbors, and you're like, what the fuck do you want? Like, leave me alone. I'm not here to
Yeah.
talk. I'm not your buddy. I'm not like, just go be by
Yeah.
yourself,
Stay the
and
fuck
I'm
over there
happy.
on your little yard. Like,
Exactly.
I'm good over
Exactly.
here. Don't come over here.
Exactly. And even to this day, my wife, like, I remember when we first went to Seattle. I've never been out, in the West Coast area, and everyone in Seattle was so nice, and they were like, "Oh, good morning, sir," and all that, like random strangers. And I look at my wife, I'm like, "Why the fuck are they saying hi to me? I don't even know them." And she's like, "Well, that's just the way people are here, honey. Like, you don't have to take." I'm like, "No, there's a fucking angle here. I don't know why they're talking to me. Just
Yeah.
don't talk to me." But anyways, so it's just like, these are reminding me of some of even my issues when I first came home, of just this dark cloud that was just
Yes.
always over me, and then
Yep.
kind of described the same way. It just sounds like same way with you, where, yeah, I was the type like you. I did not go out as much. I just stayed home. I was a homebody. I just, depression, all that hit you. And
Yes.
So with what you were building though, as you were, we'll say, coming out of it, was it something that you just did on your own to come out of, or were you kind of working on yourself and then got a service dog, or somehow got connected that way to it?
I got to the point, well, every house that we bought, I'd always build a bar. That was kind of my escape, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I always made a bar for me to go to, yeah, kind of thing. Um, One day I walked out and I had a gun in one hand and my phone in the other. And then this was after um, we had adopted our son. He was 19 days old when we adopted him, and it's just not a life. I just couldn't participate in his life. I couldn't go out with them to places and do things, and just I don't know. I just couldn't get it. I couldn't, and I was just and I said to myself, I'm either going to kill myself or I'm going to figure my shit out today. And I chose to look at the phone and I started just Googling help for veterans, basically, like
Yeah.
with PTSD. And I have a severe TBI.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how that affects me and everything that I do. So I ran across, there was a Gratitude America. That was the organization that I come upon, and they had a military support retreat for couples. That was the first thing I did, is like I went with my wife, and it helped her like see that she wasn't alone in it, kind of thing. That
Mm-hmm.
there are other people feeling the same shit that she's feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was the very first time that I said my story out loud. They did this weird thing where they give you this blank mask. It's a white, and you had to.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at here? Like they had to, like, on the inside paint like how you see yourself, on the outside how do you think people see you.
Yeah.
And then my story came out of that, and I cried like a little bitch and ran out of the room, like kind of thing. And I
What
was
are
just,
these feelings? I need to get away from these things.
I don't want them. So after that, like they basically told me when I was there that the guy that was running it, he said, "Don't have a choice. You need to go to this warrior path program. It's a 7-day thing. Just go work on yourself for 7 days. That's it." So it wasn't even a month after I left there. I went to this retreat, and it was in McClenny, Florida, which is the smallest little fucking town in the middle of nowhere. And they had like, I think they had like 25 acres or something there that they had made this program. And that was a life changing moment for me. I came home, I started, keep in mind, I didn't leave my house still. Like that wasn't a thing for me. And I came home from that and I started loading my kid up in the mornings, and I took him to daycare for the first time. Like I had a hard time because it just happened to be trash day. And trash day is hard for me because my ID was under trash. So it's just
Yeah.
hard for me to keep driving through it. But,
Yeah.
gotten that far, so we were just going to keep going. I made it to the daycare, and like I got him inside, and I come back out to the vehicle, and I just like took the big breath and like just bawled my little fucking eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to a coffee shop, a little local small coffee shop. I wanted to drive back home more than anything, but I was like, I need to just keep pushing just a little bit. And then this little local shop called Pines to Palms, and they had a little room in the back. And I asked them if I could go in there. They had a couch and everything, and I said, "Can I close the door so that nobody else comes in there?" So I was able to have my first cup of coffee really outside that I'd done in years,
Okay.
beyond
Yeah.
years. And that coffee shop ended up being kind of how Pop Smoke kind of got its thing. I had tried to go to another organization, kind of where the person that was doing it she liked to scream and yell a lot.
Mm.
Thinks all veterans, I think, likes that shit. Listen, it doesn't bother me, but it bothers my TBI, so it hurts my brain. Like I can't handle that shit. So I left there, and then and a buddy of mine came to the coffee shop, and he was like, "I think you need to start your own. You'd be really good at this." And I'd already been trained up. I ran across an ex Canine officer who would come to my house and like start training me the
Mm-hmm.
dogs and stuff, because I wanted to do something. I just didn't really know what. And he's like, "Let me just start training you with dogs." So he got me up, certified me, and all that kind of stuff for service dog work and basic obedience. And so then I met my friend at the coffee shop, and I was like, I don't know. So I came home and I talked to my wife at the time, and she's
Mhm.
like, if it's what you want to do it. And so I went back to the coffee shop the next day after I dropped my son, and the same guy showed up, and he's
Mhm.
like, "So what are you calling it?" I'm like, I have no idea, And I said, we sat there and we named off a few, and I was like, let's just name it Pop Smoke. And he said, well, why do you want to name it Pop Smoke? And I said, well, that was my med vac out of Afghanistan. Came after we had the Pop Smoke. So
Yeah.
I kind of use that as my thing, is like, it helps me see through the smoke kind of thing. That's our motto of the thing.
Yeah.
Because it really, once I got my service dog, I found him. He was a failed duck dog out of Minnesota. I got him here.
So a
English.
failed duck dog. What, for duck hunters, basically?
Yep. I don't know which part of the program he failed on.
All right. He probably was
I don't
being
know,
friends with the
probably
ducks or
not bringing
something.
the bird back. If I know him, he didn't bring the bird back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's
So
awesome.
he came to me, and I started training him up. And before you know it, I got a dog that can do pretty much anything and everything for me. Like, he can open doors, he can get my shoes, he can get my shirts. And then I put myself through school to do the medical alerting, because there's not a lot of people in this country that actually do the medical alert for dogs. Very few, actually. And it
Yeah.
costs you about $10,000 per dog to add that. And that's on
Wow.
the cheap side. Well, I knew that I was going to need it, so I figured a lot of veterans would need it. And there's no way they're going
Yeah.
to be able to afford $10,000. So I can pay
Yeah.
$4,000 and go to school. So I'm going to go do that. And that way I can
Wow.
teach it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like how we got started. Was that in the coffee shop, and I went to school when I finished going to school for the medical alerting, and then I
Yeah.
just started rolling with it.
So how long did it take you to finish the medical alert?
That was a year. That program
Oh, it
was a
was a
year.
year.
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually, it's all over Zoom, because at the time, yeah, that's how they did it, was all over, video and stuff. I actually got to use Toby as my dog through the program. So he
Oh,
actually
okay.
learned the medical alerting as I did. Um,
Wow. So describe kind of like, so what happens with the medical alerting with the dogs? What is it that how do they get trained in it, or what is it that they pick up on for the medical alert?
Yeah, so for the medical alerting, your body actually lets off a bunch of different scents when you have a medical episode, let's say. For people that have seizures, for people that have heart attacks, even
Yep.
for a lot of the veterans who have anxiety, you
Yep.
actually, when you get anxiety, you it's not just sweat that you're doing. There's another smell that's in there, a hormone, so to speak, that the dogs can smell that we can't. Um, and they can smell that. And that's kind of how you start teaching them. So, like, I had to start collecting cotton balls of every time I had anxiety attacks. So I wiped
Oh,
my
no
neck,
shit.
forehead,
Yep.
and then I would store it in the freezer. And that's how you kind of start the scent work. You started them smelling it. As soon as they put their nose on the can, you click it, treat it. And once they got pretty good with that part, then you advance it a little bit further. And it took a little bit of time to get there. A long process to make sure that they actually, a lot of dogs like to use their eyes to see things.
Yeah.
You have to
Yep.
really teach a dog to use their nose in that realm of things. So that
Gotcha.
scent work part is the important part on that one.
Wow, that's amazing. And so is it like, so the more advanced? So would you basically induce anxiety on yourself for Toby to pick up on it?
No, I just did it. It happened very naturally for me, because
Okay.
I have to do is really step outside, and I'm full of anxiety. So
Okay, gotcha. So you literally threw Toby in the deep end and was like, "All right, you gotta learn."
yeah, pretty much. And it's so great. He loves to learn, so it made it easy.
Oh, that's good. So he wasn't
Never
the
seen
type
a
of dog
dog
that
quite
just went
like
the other
him that
way.
loves him. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, so he wasn't the type of dog that just sees a squirrel and runs off.
No, no. I got some good videos I can send you, that there's like 20 deer sitting right in front of him, and he's just sitting there.
That's awesome. Well, that's a good dog. He's doing his job essentially, and
Yep.
And oh man, that's so awesome. So how many dogs have you trained for veterans and actually given to veterans?
Now we're up to 15 dogs that we've actually gave to veterans and first responders.
Sorry, I missed a 5-0 or 1-5?
1-5, just 1-5. We're
1-5.
still
Okay.
small. Yeah,
Yep.
we're still small, but we're trucking along the lines. We're growing pretty rapidly here recently, and actually 8 dogs in the kennel right now being trained to go out.
Wow.
A lot of puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah, they give me a lot of fucking headaches.
Right. Hey, but you know what? I'd rather puppy headaches than fucking people headaches.
Well, absolutely. Dogs way better than people in my realm of things.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's why man's best friend, right? Just
Yep.
they're much easier to handle than people.
Yeah. They can be very trying at sometimes, especially the 2 new ones that I've got.
Oh
They're
yeah. How old are they?
20 weeks, the 2 new ones.
Okay.
Um, and they're a breed that I'm not super familiar with. We got them donated to us. They're mini golden doodles.
Okay.
I normally just do labs and goldens.
Yeah.
Just because they're um, really treat motivated, and that's how we train is treat motivated or ball motivated.
Okay.
Labs, like there's never ever a question. Like they're so food motivated, it's ridiculous. Makes it easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
These little
Yeah.
golden doodles now, they're a little different. They have these human eyes that are like creepy as shit. Like they are like you turn around, they're staring at you. You're like, what the fuck are you staring at? It's like creepy. It's super creepy.
Oh my god, that is creepy with having human eyes on a dog.
Yeah, it is creepy.
Oh, so are they basically so you have the 8 dogs, are they already basically spoken for, like the veterans that you're training them for?
Yeah, those are the only 2 that aren't spoken for at the time right now. The other ones I have in the kennel are all meant to go to a veteran. The veterans haven't met them yet
Yeah, okay.
because they're all still in their basic obedience stages. Once we get close to getting basic obedience done, how we do it is we'll fly the veteran into us if they're not local. They'll
Mhm.
spend I have a really nice area here. It's like a little oasis. It's like serenity when you come here. Super peaceful. They come here for 4 days and they just do nothing but spend time with that dog. That dog gets to stay with them in the house for the first time. The dog gets to gets actual loving because we don't give a lot of loving because they can't bond with me. They can't bond with anybody else. Any of the other
Gotcha.
veterans that come and walks them, they can't do any of that. So they get pets here and there, but they don't get the actual like loving and affection that they really want. And they want it really
Gotcha.
bad. Yep.
Gotcha. So
And
you,
after that,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
then the veteran goes back home and then I finish training him up through all making sure the basic and advanced obedience is on point. And then that dog goes, I will fly the dog to the veteran. I take him there myself. I spend 4 days with that veteran at their home, getting it acclimated, making sure they're good. Any questions, kind of teaching them a little bit of the training aspect of things. And then I fly home. And then they'll spend 3 weeks with that dog, just letting that dog it takes about 3 weeks for a dog to get acclimated to a new environment.
Yeah.
And so once that's done, and then we start the service dog training portion. So actually, me, the veteran, and the dog train together for the service and the medical alert.
Gotcha.
The only way we're able to do it in order to cut the cost of it. So service
Gotcha.
dogs, according to the the ADA, they're worth about $25,000 once they said and done, once they're trained. And then if you add medical alert, you're looking at around up to $75,000. I
Wow.
mean, they're legitimately they can save your life. They're a medical
Yeah.
device. So they're worth so much money. And it's just
Yeah.
hard if I was to train them all up myself, it takes about 2 years alone. We wouldn't be able to help as many, but with doing it this way, I can get them trained up fairly quickly with the basic obedience and where they're super solid dogs and they're ready and they know they work. I mean, we put the vest on them early. They were wearing the vest at puppies, so they know when they're working, when they're not working. Anytime they're doing training, they're in their vest, they're working. They know that part.
Gotcha.
It's just up to the veteran to find the motivation to do the training, and that
Gotcha.
sometimes is the hard part.
Yeah.
The veteran
Is
is the harder part than the dog sometimes.
well, yeah. I mean, again, people, right?
Yep.
But with the training, is that over Zoom or how is that usually done?
Yeah, Zoom or Teams, however you want to do it. That's how we do it. And then we have an app that we share videos through.
Okay.
They'll be posting their videos of, like, I'll give them homework that week. They'll post their videos there. I check them, view them, and then I'll send back like corrections that way throughout the week. But we have one session, one Zoom session a week, unless they're having issues with something, and then we get on and we do it. They're
Gotcha.
always texting me, or Matt just recently got Huey. I don't know if you got to see him at all, but
Yeah, no, he was under the desk or something. Yeah, but yeah, he did talk about Huey.
yeah, yeah. He just recently got Huey. Huey's just a special character. He's the smartest, dumbest dog I've ever met. It's like,
So what you're saying is he matches Matt's personality really well. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, so he actually has said that Huey has saved his life. I mean, he's said
yes,
that to me before. Because he was in a very dark place, and
yeah,
Huey helped him a lot,
yeah,
which is always obviously great to hear fellow veterans coming out of whatever darkness they're going through.
yeah,
And like I'm part of an organization called 22 Mohawks, and I told you about them. And it's just
yeah,
amazing to see that when we deliver, or that veteran comes to the we call our headquarters, as we call it, the skiff. So when they come to the skiff, when we hand that dog off to that veteran, it's amazing to see the veteran's eyes just light right up, like just. It's like you gave them a new purpose or something, like something deep inside of them just woke up again, and
yep,
just that connection with that dog, it's unbelievable. It's just, I mean, the science behind it alone speaks volume.
yeah, yep, yeah. It's amazing to see the difference that it can make. And I met Matt, and we have a lot of things in common. I think we deal with a lot of our aftermath of our traumas, a lot of the same.
Yeah,
And I think that's where we kind of connected on a different level
yeah.
that I haven't been able to connect with somebody on that level in a long time. That's like kind of where it started with. I actually met him at the Warrior Path program.
Okay.
After I left there, I started going back, and I was a guide there. So I did that on top of the service dog thing at the same time. So I was actually teaching the program, because it literally, like, it did change my life,
Yeah.
And then I got
And
cancer, so I had to stop it.
well, that's the thing though. Like, as we're talking, and then you just forget that basically built like RoboCop, as Matt likes to describe you, and cancer and all of that. But then, you know, like for me, like shit, that's right. Like she's still battling all those other things on
Yeah,
top of doing what you're doing, and you don't. Again, it's always refreshing to hear veterans that come out of that dark place and are able to drive forward and move forward and push forward, finding their second mission, right, or
yeah,
their purpose, right, and that purpose that you found, that drive that you have, service before self. I mean, you're doing it with these service dogs, literally, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's something much bigger than you.
yeah,
And if you want to call your quote unquote bullshit, that you're going through, but it's like one of those things, like, yeah, fuck the bullshit I'm going through. I'm still gonna help, my fellow
yeah,
veteran or my fellow man or woman or whoever that needs that help. You'll
yeah,
still go out and do it, and that's something that, again, it's like one thing I always teach my son is like, always help. You
yeah,
have no idea what people are going through in their personal lives.
yeah,
Always be that rock for them, or always be that friend to them, whether it's
yeah,
someone to listen to or just something. And I think those, us veterans that have gone through trauma, or even first responders on top of that, especially if you talking a 30-year career as a cop, the amount of, especially if you work in a city, big city, medium-sized city, the amount of trauma you face on a daily basis or a weekly basis alone, not too many Americans go through that. I mean, I know when when I deployed in 2005, I remember the usual number of those who are actually serving in the armed forces was 0.45%. So less than 1% of the U.S. population actually serve in the
yeah,
military. And same with policing. It's less than 1%
yeah,
of the total population in America. And you don't have really anybody else but each other. I always say, like, we only understand each other. Like, no one else will ever, no therapist, no fucking psychiatrist, unless they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. To me, they have no idea. You're laughing, but that's like, you get it, right? I mean, just like, you can't relate to somebody like that,
Yep.
especially, I mean, I've again, going through therapy and talking to therapists and stuff like that who've never served. They're like, listen, and I appreciate them saying it right off the bat. Like, listen, I never served. I have no idea, what you're going through, but I understand trauma, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that perspective coming out of them versus the typical therapist who just thinks they know more than you, and you're like, dude, I'm already done. I'm already done with you. I don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm going to go home.
Oh
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
it's
100%.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, that with these types of services you're providing veterans, and still going out there doing everything else. And then, for me, like I said, I think back and I'm like, oh yeah, she doesn't have legs, and she's battling cancer, and yet she's still doing so. I mean, again, so that deep inside drive. I mean, is it just you basically saying to yourself, one step at a time, or I'm going to keep pushing forward, or what is it, kind of I say, the daily motivation that drives you to continue doing what you're doing?
I just think it's part of my therapy. I'm just gonna be honest. I use it to get myself out of this house. Depression is still a huge part for me. It will drive me to stay in the bed. So now that I've got cancer, like I just can't let that be my life. Like if I'm gonna lay there, then I'm going to just die and give into it. So like I just tell myself, just 1% better every day, one step, one foot in front of the other. Like I tell myself that every morning. Like it's all I can do sometimes to like want to step out of that bed,
Yeah.
but I don't want to live in that bed.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be my life. So they are what drives me to get up and to do it. And then when I start doing it, like I feel like I have that, finally have a purpose again for myself. Like, because I lost all of it. I mean, I lost everything that I used to love to do. Like I can't ride motorcycles anymore. I can't jump out of planes anymore. I can't do all the high risk crap anymore. My life's kind of
Yeah.
boring.
Yeah. I wouldn't say boring. Trust me. Sitting on this end, it's not boring.
I use it to keep pushing myself forward. But when I see what the dog does to the veteran and how it changes their life, and it's just a feeling that I can't describe. It's just like, all right, I am doing fucking the right thing. Like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I think Matt asked me, he's like, so how big do you want this thing to be? And I said, I just really see it as dog, one veteran at a time. Like I don't care how big I get. I want to do it the right way. There's a lot of people out there that will give you a dog, and they'll say it's a service dog, and it's just a well trained dog.
Yeah.
I want this dog to save your life. I don't want him just to be a buddy. And I need
Yeah.
him to be there in those hard moments
Yeah.
when you have a gun in your hand or a phone in the other,
Yeah.
and you choose the dog instead of either one of those things. That's what I
Yeah.
want. You said something a little bit ago about you're around other veterans. That's when you understand each other, or police officers, and that is so true. Like there's so many veterans that can be in a room crowded with a bunch of people and they can feel so alone, and they
Yeah.
do in their mind, but they'll never say it to anybody else,
Yeah.
and that is actually what brings the veterans into that dark place,
Yeah.
because they just think that no one will ever understand what they've seen, what they've done, because people don't realize what you do when you deploy, the
Yeah.
crap that you see, the crap that you're put in, and like for you in law enforcement, like when I was a cop, you don't ever get called to someone's good day. You don't get called to the happy birthday parties,
Yeah.
and it's always somebody's worst day. And that is your life as a cop. You live that at least 5 days a week, and when
Yeah.
we're deployed, it didn't happen every single day that we were there, but it happened a lot. But for police
Yeah.
officers, I mean, it's rampant because they're in it every day, full shift of just the negative.
Yeah.
That's where they live,
Yeah.
and then you want them not to live there when they go home. Like Like how? You're going to have to give them some extra different tools in order to do that.
I think
And
that's the
it's not
biggest.
drugs.
Yeah.
It's not the
No,
drugs. Like
no.
the VA, they like to hand them out like candy.
Oh
And I
yeah,
was
they do.
on I was on a lot of meds, mental health meds. And I just finally said, that's not the answer for me. You know, and I really turned to the dog in order to pull me through those really dark moments. Like my dog wakes me up from night terrors. Before I had my dog, I woke up trying to basically strangle my wife. That's when I knew like my problems were seriously out of control at that moment. I have to change this for myself, for my family, my son, getting all that. There's veterans just sitting there suffering just like that, not knowing which way to go, which way to turn, and they don't have that, you know. And
Yeah,
if there's any of them listening right now, even if you don't want a dog, just reach out, talk.
yeah.
I'm a hell of a listener. I've gotten really good at that point.
Well, I mean, that's again really sound advice for a veteran and the police community, the first responder. I mean, just we all know suicide rates are out of control in the
Yep.
police world, and it's always
Yep.
underreported. I truly believe it's underreported because you don't hear enough about it. And
Yep.
same with the veteran community, the amount of, uh, and I bet you, that, it's I would guess that if they were to actually do a poll on attempted suicide and not successful, it'll be 10 times higher than the actual suicide, right?
Yep.
Within the veteran and law enforcement community. Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, when we were deployed, right? And when you come home, okay, you're good, you're safe, you don't have to worry as much, other than your traumas and whatever else you had to deal with. But, when I deployed and you would get there, is like you had to kill off your human self in order to
Yep.
do the job, right? You had to kind
Yep.
of separate your feelings, quote unquote, because
Yep.
when we had soldiers die, it's like, all right, we got mission the next day or mission that night. Like it didn't really matter. You just push forward. You're still doing the
Yep.
job. Policing, yeah, technically you never have a day off, especially when you're here, and that's constantly what you're doing every single day. And your phone, especially these days with these stupid smartphones, now you're easily to get a hold of,
Yep.
with work and everything. I mean when I became a cop in 2007, cell phones weren't as prevalent, for calling you into work or any of that bullshit. But
Yep.
this day and age with smartphones, yeah, you're always connected to the PD. You're always connected to the bullshit and the negativity and all the shit that you deal with on a daily basis. And you're right, to bring it home really affects your family life, your personal life,
Yep.
and that dark place you go to. And, a lot of cops and veterans, we go right to the booze. I mean,
Yep.
that's within that culture, right? You go right to the alcohol, you go right to whatever prescriptions that the VA gave you, because yeah, I mean, at one point I was on 13 different psych medications and I felt like a fucking zombie, and I was like, this is too much. I can't, I don't think I should be doing this many medication. I don't think it's right, because you
Yeah.
just don't feel like yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You're walking around in a fog. That's
yeah,
how I
yeah,
was. I was walking around
yeah.
in a fog. Yep.
Exactly. I'm like this emotionless, just whatever vegetable,
Yep.
like you said, it comes to a point where you really got to ask yourself, like, all right, is this right? Like, or am I like really question again? That's even though I'm still in the VA and I do a lot of my stuff through the VA, I
Yep.
throw a lot more questions at these doctors these days, a lot more,
Yeah.
right? And a lot more second guessing, like, I'm not sure I want to do this, like more questions
Yep.
than answers. And I think that's just the way to do it. But to have a outlet like a dog at home where you can come home to,
Yeah.
that picks up on your cues right away and is able to
Yeah.
bring you back down versus keeping you in that elevated state, I think speaks volumes kind of with what you bring to the veteran and first responder community, is because they as in the military and even police community never teach
Yeah.
you to separate yourself, right? To
Yeah.
separate that trauma, whatever, to be able to turn off your mind, so to speak, right? To turn off that hunter instinct, because
Yep.
that's all we're doing. We're scanning for dangers, we're looking for dangers, and as a cop, that's all you're doing.
Yep.
where when we were deployed, when we deployed, we were outside the wire. That's when we're scanning for dangers and whatever else. And we know that somebody on the other side is trying to kill us and we're going to kill them. And it's like very primal, right? It's a very, very primal lifestyle. And when
Yep.
you come back here, everything is, rosy and rainbows and sunshine. And you're like, what the fuck is all this? Why is everything so happy here? It's like, shouldn't be this way. Even as a cop, you tend to find yourself like, why the fuck is everyone having fun? Don't they know how miserable it is out here?
I
Like,
know.
but that negativity is what really essentially kills you,
Yep.
and for you, bouncing back, right, repeatedly. I mean, it seems every single day you bounce. You kind of force yourself to get out of bed, take that first step forward.
Yep.
Without, I know we're running close to time, but what I'd like to see is a question I always ask guests on the show is, which I think you already did a great job doing it ahead of time, but if there was one message you want to put out to the veteran and first responder community, if there's like one thing you want to tell them for them to think about tonight, and whatever else you want them to think, what would that one lesson be or advice?
I think my biggest thing is like, I know you feel alone, but you're not. It it doesn't have to be that way. You just gotta make one phone call. It can be to a buddy, to a friend. It can be to anybody that you trust enough to say it, and they can give you that help that you need. And it doesn't have to be in the VA. Like for me, like I went at first. I started all my mental health through the VA, and I figured out for me that I needed someone that thinks outside the box. I didn't want you to treat me just like every other veteran, and that's kind of what they do with the thing, because I'm different than you or anybody else. The way that I view my mental health is different than Joe Blow next to me. Like so I went out and I have two mental health therapists, and I created a routine, and that routine is really what gets me up every day to do that. Like I have a whole thing where I don't touch my phone. I don't do any of those things until I've worked out. Like, yes, I'm in cancer, but I still make it part of my regimen. I do cold therapy now, which has been super great for the inflammation in my lower half and that kind of thing. And the thing you actually touched on it is like how we see the world. Like we've actually forgotten how to have fun. And I think that is the most important thing is like go out and do one thing that fucking just makes you laugh uncontrollably and remember what it feels like to be a kid again, sort of. Like when you've been a part of trauma, when you've stood beside your friends who've died, when you've seen the shit that you do as a police officer, you forget that there's still fucking shit out there that makes you happy and that you can go out and laugh and do those things. Like we do not laugh hard enough. We can giggle, right? We can
Oh
fucking do
yeah.
that stupid shit, but like that uncontrollable laugh that we used to do when we were a kid just because it was just pure joy, I lost that. Somebody said that to me, like, when was the last time you laughed? And when I was in my darkest moment, I couldn't even tell you. It'd been years, you know, and once I figured out that, like, all right, I just need to go find this, whatever it is, some of the and for me, I found it in a dog, my laughter, because they do some stupid shit. So, like, I found that my love and my passion turned into be like where I started having actual fun with my son for. The first time. And so the biggest thing is like it doesn't always have to be a pill that changes you. It can be an animal that you reach down for, and that simple just touching your hand to that dog's head can make the world just seem all right for just that 5 minutes that you need it to get yourself out of that funk that you're in
Mhm.
that's keeping you in that chair. Whatever it is, it's out there. Look for it. There's a million veteran and first responder organizations that is waiting to help you. You just have to take that first small step and make contact. And it can be a phone call. Shit, it can be a phone call to me. Call me up and I'll put you in contact with it. Not just sit there and let it take you because you're not alone. Just not. And there's ways to fight through it, unorthodox ways. And listen, a lot of people don't consider that service dog as a path for them. But my dog has literally changed my life. Like, I'm able to go out and shit. I went to Disney with my son. You do remember I said I hate people?
Yes,
It's like
I
the
was
world's
I was already thinking just me taking my son to Disneyland, Disney World, and
yeah.
my love for humans really shone through. Yeah, I mean that for you, that's a huge step. I mean to
Yeah.
go to Disney World. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's possible for anybody. You just got to change the mindset that you're in, the negative world that you've been taught to live in. I mean, that's what we've all been trained for, to live in that world, and they don't train you how to get out of it. They don't train you how not to be that fighter anymore, that protector. They don't train, they don't get that out of you. They don't give you the tools to cut that little switch back off so you can go be a part of civilian life.
yeah,
The rage that you're feeling, that once you say all this shit to people and your mouth opens up and all those things, and then you look at the person sitting across from you and you realize that you just crushed their world with the words that just come out of your mouth. That was my biggest thing. And I'm still actually battling that. Like, the rage, because I'm at the point kind of where I'm like, I've been through some shit, and I keep going through some shit, and it got to the point where I didn't really care about people's feelings on the other end of my mouth, and
yeah,
that's not good at all. And it's just a constant battle. Like, I constantly work to get on the other side of something, and you've just got to want that for yourself. Like, the sitting in the chair and be miserable, you got to want different. You can do it. Anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And just keep pushing,
Well, Alicia, thank you so much for coming on, talking about your story and sharing laughs on some of our quirks as combat vets and some of the shit we all go through. But again, your story of resilience and just keep pushing literally one step at a time, and still continuing to persevere no matter what comes in front of you, whether it's cancer or surgeries or whatever it might be. You still truck on and push on. And, obviously, thank you for everything that you do for the communities, both law enforcement, first responder, and military veterans. On the what I'll do on the show notes is put your website and your email address. That way, people want to get in touch with you, have questions for you, can reach out to you. Obviously, big part of this is, like you said, call someone.
Yep.
I always put my email address at all the show notes, like, email, get a hold of us. We have, what's great about this type of network that we're in is we have plethora of legit good resources versus the bullshit resources where all you're doing is, getting pushed around to different things. It's a very different type of resource when it's being run by veterans, by combat vets. It's a different type of passion. It's a different type of passion. But hey, Alicia, if you can hang out just for a second, I'm going to do a quick outro, and we'll talk to you offline in just a second. All right?
Okay.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. What a great episode, a great story. I hope you guys all got something out of it. And again, it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for supporters and sponsors like Habit Journal, AAA Police Supply, Second Mission Foundation, and if I forget to mention you, don't worry, I love you. It's a lot for this TBI mind to remember. So, but in the end, if you guys get anything out of this, please feel free to reach out, like, share, comment on our Instagram page or even email, and we love hearing from you. So everybody can stay safe and stay safe.